beginning to discover that there was a gap in mental health support, early intervention for primary age children in our area. And we began to wonder in our team ministry whether there was something that we could do to address that. So we began by researching whether there was a problem that we had perceived. We spoke to GPs, we spoke to local schools in the area, and everybody was coming back with the same message. Yes, there isn't much around for primary age children that happens early enough for it to make a difference. We'd heard about what was going on in the Goudhurst church in that area, and they were partnering with an organisation called Fegans, and so we began to explore that as a way forward. The schools in the cluster, there are 13 schools, and it just so happens that it's within our deanery area, so that was quite practical from an admin point of view. So those 13 schools get counselling in their schools that is match funded, so the schools pay half and the charity pays half to make sure that children in primary schools can get this early stage counselling. So it's not for major, very entrenched mental health issues. It's that early intervention that could make all the difference later on, and certainly stops things from escalating and developing by the time they get to secondary school age. The other thing that we've been able to do, because of some generous grants we've been able to secure, is to put in place a family support worker who has just come on board, and they will come alongside the families of children who have mental health issues and work to support the whole family unit or carers who are involved. And they will also build a team of local volunteers to help expand and develop that work.
I think it's really important for people to understand how many children there are out there that are really struggling with their mental health. I mean, post-COVID it's definitely risen, but it's always been there. It's always been there.
2/3 of our children come to school with mental health problems, and we've seen, as I say, an increase of that, and 1/3 of them is post-COVID of what's happening at home with families.
Well, we've got our own school counsellor. She had a very long waiting list in December. I think she had about 9 children on the waiting list. So having Fegans come in and work with 3 children meant that they didn't have to wait for so long to be seen and supported.
It's such a kingdom thing, isn't it? Freedom from fear and anxiety, and the possibility of transformation. So it's not Christian counselling that goes into the schools. We're working in schools that are church schools and not church schools across the district. But it's what is underpinning that is our desire to see families and children flourishing and set free from the things that they feel burdened by. And yeah, so that's what's behind it. It's kingdom stuff.
Well, when we arrived, it was really immediately clear that we already had a really strong connection with children and young people through our church choirs. We were so privileged to have that ministry, and that's always brought in families and children into the church community. But we wanted to explore church for them as a place of worship and leading it as they do, but also a place of community. So that was where we decided to really get going with our young people's nights, just to help them to realise that, you know, church is about coming, seeing friends, family, being part of a community, as well as being the place for worship. And so that's where it started off. But now we've got, you know, they're bringing friends with them. We've got people outside the church community, and really it's been a word of mouth coming round. And so now we've got people outside the choir coming in, showing an interest and subsequently joining the choir. We've got people who, you know, their nephews, their nieces, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, because they've told them about these, so they come to our young people's nights. So it's really just in a very organic, natural way, just that's how we've drawn young people in from that wider church family. Some of the principal values that underline our ministry with our young people are: everyone is welcome to be themselves. That ministry of hospitality, because one of the core bedrocks of our faith is that Eucharistic meal, so of course we've got to have a meal in it. And that ministry of sharing who we are, gathering around with a bit of fellowship over food, and yeah, I think and love. We're just being gently led, guided by the Spirit, and seeing where the young people, where God's going to take us next with it.
I'm chaplain in mission to Bapchard Tong Primary School and associate priest to the parish of Merston, Bapchard Tong. I'm the first person to take this role, so it's a brand new role, and my understanding from what I've heard of the history is that Mr. Kelly, the head teacher here, had long felt in his career that church schools take a lot of time from clergy. Schools benefit a lot from visiting clergy with worship and special services for Christmas and so on. And he began to think about whether the school could partly fund a priest, and started discussions with the diocese, and the diocese were very interested as well, and so the role came about. So I'm 50% funded by the school, 50% by the church. So I suppose I find that with this role, I'm in the parish, I'm in the community, I'm getting to know the parents of the children as well, and I'm in the school. So it just creates an opportunity for relationships to grow.
It's been a privilege working with Reverend Simon. It continues to be a privilege to work with Reverend Simon. I've learned a huge amount from Reverend Simon, and he has guided and supported us in the school. And I think if we look at aspects of the school in terms of prayer and worship, we're richer now than we've ever been.